What is up, Honey Badger Nation? This is John Kitchens, and man, welcome to episode 176 of Expert Mentors Live. And got an OG on with us today, Mr. Brian Burds out of the deep South Texas of El Paso. And Brian and I, man, geez, what has it been?
We go back a long ways. Yeah, we go back a long ways. John used to be my coach a long time ago.
Long time ago. I was, when we were, teeing up the call and everything, I was trying to reflect back when that was. That was in the early days of my, really kind of focus on the coaching side. I think we were still, I don't know if we were still in Lawton at the time or if we had moved down to Frisco yet.
I think you had just moved down to Frisco, if I recall, because it had just been kind of whenever the NAEA had kind of taken over from Kinder Reese. So yeah, I think that's that what 9-ish range, something like that. Yeah, crazy. It's been a while. Life changes quick.
It does. And I'm really excited to jump in with you. Just, familiar with the market and the challenges and the things that you've had to navigate through and, really diving into kind of our topic around profitability and, the ever elusive lead conversion monster that, fast growing teams always have to kind of keep their eye on. But before we kind of really jump into the meat of it, Brian, I would love for you to just kind of unpack, kind of your story and a little bit about you and your business.
Absolutely. So we'll go back 16 years. 16 years ago, I was working, I graduated college, went down to Austin, Texas, was working at the legislature. My intention, my full goal at that point was to get into lobbying, right? I got into lobbying, got a great gig, and just the morality of it hit me hard, right? And I realized that the golden palace of politics that I had always built up in my mind was not real. So I went back to El Paso to run a campaign, and the rest is history in the real estate game. I got into real estate because it was a fallback. I wanted to stay in El Paso because my fiance at the time, or my girlfriend at the time, and now my wife, was still going to school, finishing up her master's degree. So it just kind of transitioned. And then I went into real estate. A few years pass, and me and my wife decide that we're gonna have children. 6 months out, I'm like, I cannot work this hard. My two biggest mentors are my stepfather and my father, and they're both workaholics, right? And I didn't get to see them as kids. One was the military, one's a farmer. So 6 months out of the year, I didn't see my stepfather, right? There would be times where at a year time, I wouldn't see my actual father because they were working so hard. I wanted to have the work ethic, but I didn't want to have the absentee version of that. So I put a team into play, started out like most do with an assistant, scaled up into a buyer specialist, and so on and so forth, went on. Today, we operate a team that operates at 28 people, heavy on the admin side, but my agents are very specialized. We have about 13 agents active. We've scaled that up. I say 13 active selling agents. We have our ISA team that's licensed as well, some admin people that are licensed as well. So that's today. We did about 400 transactions last year for just over 80 million in volume. So pretty productive year. We intend to go pretty heavy on that this year.
Yeah, and it really is exciting. And you've always just been a student. And I mean, just us working together early, decade ago, it feels like, and just really being able to, just the same pursuit of better, but also understanding the importance of leverage just through that experience that you shared with your, with your dad and your stepdad. When, sometimes we have these experiences, sometimes it hits us right away. Hey, we don't ever want that. Or it's one of those things just kind of seep back in the subconscious, and we have to have aha. It's like, man, I'm going down the same path that was kind of ingrained in me that I resent it. How do I make that change? Was it an aha moment for you, or was it just something that, man, I never want this, and that's the way you've always been?
Yeah, so let's go back. I have a degree in finance. I was going to go into a modeling of doing spreadsheets for the rest of my life, or until I scaled into a next model of what finance had. Um, I got into it and I was like, I can't do this the rest of my life. And I have, from day one of graduation, and even in college, never really said, if I don't love a damn job, I'm not going to do the damn job, right? And it's kind of comical because my wife is very good at her job, but she does not enjoy it. And that hurts every day because I tell all my staff, listen, if you're not enjoying life, then one, either let's figure it out, or two, you don't need to be here anymore because it doesn't fit.
Mm.
And I've always operated. So I guess to the question, is it an aha? I think it's always been kind of like, hey, I just want to enjoy what I do every day. And real estate is a vessel to allow me to do everything I want to do every day.
Yeah, no, I love that. For you, realizing, hey, I don't want to do this, but was it just default into real estate, or was it more of a, a strategic decision?
Not strategic at all. It was completely default. Family had been in real estate. It had always sounded kind of lucrative, sounded like a great opportunity. And it allowed me to do something that I noticed was different every day. Like I'd go and visit my family at their office and they were doing something different every day. And that's what I need. I, I'm diagnosed in the basis of ADHD, and I love to just have actionable things moving at all times. I'm very hard to just pay attention to one thing at one time. So it kind of fit, and it's been successful so far.
I love that. So kind of, getting into the business and, leaning in on the finance side of things,
Mhm.
has it always been, hey, I'm getting in this to make a profit? Am I getting in this to survive? Am I getting what's really going on here?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I kind of just went through the punches. I ripped off and duplicated a lot, but unfortunately, sometimes I forgot that there's other backsides that need to happen. And I ran a very big team. I was actually doing about 400 or 500 transactions previous, but it wasn't healthy. It wasn't profitable. It was spending $10,000 a month at Zillow to buy leads, and it just wasn't profitable. So it didn't scale the right way that I wanted. So yeah, I made a lot of mistakes because I went the wrong route. I'm not saying buying leads is the wrong route. I'm saying that overabundance of buying leads becomes it allows people to cherry pick. And when you have agents on your team that cherry pick, unfortunately, what ends up happening is you run a very non-profitable business. Um, I went back, I kind of broke it all down and figured out how to build it up the right way with organic base. Um, and I think the business that I run today is a totally different animal, and it feels so much better. And I was, I love the fact this was really an aha moment for me, in the basis that profit first. I don't know if I don't know if you read this, but man, it resonates,
Mhm.
because it allows us now to see the opportunity that if we take that profit first, now we have everything else. And it's kind of college days, right? We remember back in our college days, how did we survive on those? I think I made it one time in college a month. I think I made like $342 a month. I was like, I made it work. I don't know how, but I think that's the problem. And profit first gives us that functionality.
Yeah.
Whatever's left over, that's what you work with,
Yeah.
and you don't have anything extra because that money's in a different account and you're not going to touch it. So
Yeah. No, it's a great model, great concept. I think, for us, and this might have been when, early on when we were working together and got introduced to Greg Crabtree with Simple Numbers,
mhm,
Straight Talk, Big Profits.
mhm.
And
You
he
actually
really,
sent me that book. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it really it started to click for us at that point. And, at that moment, we were successful.
Mhm.
We understood that a lot of our money was dumped back into R&D because we were kind of the test kitchen for Kinder Reese coaching that became NAEA. So we understood that, hey, we needed, we gave ourselves an out of, hey, we don't have to be profitable because we're investing in all of these other things, which is nonsense.
It's an
And
easy explanation that we all give to each other.
yeah, it does. And we let ourselves off the hook. And so taking Greg's salary cap concept allowed us to make the adjustments because we were out of whack in salaries and expenses to
Yeah.
hit a profitable target margin. And now understanding Maklowitz, the profit first concept, and a lot of the things that I do, everything business wise falls back onto that model. Now, we still take the principles of Crabtree into consideration with things and kind of how to look at it in that regard. But really, what are those big buckets? And that's just how we've really introduced that. And so for you, getting introduced to that, when you're like, man, no wonder my business is not where it needs to be. And was it just an immediate switch, or was it a gradual over time?
It's comical. So I would go to these conferences, right? And we'd be sitting at these conferences. And it's actually funny. You were actually at one of these conferences. I think we were in San Diego at a rate conference, and you guys were in the back. And I remember you guys were having yours was the fun table, and I wasn't sitting at that table. But nonetheless,
I remember that. That was Damon John was the celebrity at that
Damon
one.
John.
Yeah.
Damon John was there. So the concept was is that I was hearing everybody saying, oh yeah, I'm hitting this profit margin. I'm hitting this profit margin. I just took that blindly. I was like, damn, I'm not hitting that profit margin. I need to go back and fix it. What I turned out to realize is that they weren't hitting that profit margin. What they were doing is they were taking their own salary, right? Their own income, and they were functioning that into profit. That is not profit. That is your income, right? Until you start paying yourself separate, until you start paying yourself, if you're in production still, until you're starting paying yourself like you would pay any other agent, that is not profit. And once I came back with this model, like, okay, I'm hitting that profit, and I didn't realize that everybody was doing it the wrong way. And now they're using it as an example of profit instead of where they were, which wasn't real, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of blindly done, not on purpose by any means. It was just like, they're doing it, so I must be doing it wrong. So I'm going to go back and fix it. And when I fixed it, I did it the right way when they were doing it wrong.
It is comical to think back to those days, and it was ego, right? I'm at this profit margin. I'm at this profit margin. And it was like, man, Kendra and I would always just kind of chuckle and like, show me the numbers. I don't want to hear you tell me the story. Show me the numbers. And we would poke a little bit. We'd be like, well, what are you paying yourself? Right. And then, kind of get him to come to that conclusion. We didn't want to call him out on Front Street and embarrass him, but we knew you soon realized, and it's really ego driven. One of the things, and I'm curious your take on this, and I see this too much with agents, and one of the mentors that I'm kind of in a group coaching environment with right now, he made a statement a couple weeks ago, and he runs this model, this exact thing. In fact, he was the one to where I'm like, oh shit, I've got to make this adjustment. But he said, here's the problem with most companies that try to stack as much profit as possible, is that it stagnates growth. And he said, you need to just maintain an acceptable profit margin. And it could be a quarter all the way down to even what Crabtree says is 15% to 18 to 20%. You're healthy. And what he said is that if you're trying to grow, you need to hold steady on profit at that 16 to 18. You could go all the way up to a quarter. But if you go higher than that, you're robbing cash to reinvest back into grow the business. I would just love, since you've become a student of that and you've experienced it and seen it with that concept, is there too much is too much? Hey, we're acceptable because then that gives us the margins to reinvest. Kind of what's your take when it exact kind of where that profit needs to be?
So I run really heavy. I run heavy. We did 42% last year. So we run really heavy. But remember, 42% doesn't mean I'm sticking that 42% in my bank at the end of the year. A lot of that goes back into reinvestment. So of that 42, we probably spent 55% in growth, right? We bought some new equipment. We did other things that were outside the spectrum of what we would have normally done with our budget. We added that back into the equation. I also paid off, we've added in other avenues, building in ancillaries, title, mortgage, stuff like that. So that money has directly gone into those facets rather than me drawing out of my own income and my own savings into that equation. So the answer is I run a little higher, but I also am not looking at putting that in my pocket. I'm looking at the opportunity of where can I reinvest that to grow and scale? Because I'm a student of finance. So you hear Apple has billions of dollars in cash. right? And why they do have billions of dollars in cash, they also built a campus that's $1 billion campus in cash, right? So the answer is, yeah, it is cash, but at the end of the day, it's also available for reinvestment in that. And when you get into taxes and all that stuff, I mean, the retained earnings does have some value as well.
Do you, and just kind of keeping the conversation, just the thoughts from here, because I just want to give everybody idea what they could do with that profit. So I appreciate you saying, hey, yeah, we're at 42%, but if you take the dollars that we reinvest, we're taking, half to 55% of that 42% and reinvesting back into either growth, additional assets for you, additional assets for the company. And I love this. Adam Lyons is the gentleman that really has just opened my eyes to how this needs to be structured. And he says that's where you give to your key people. You give them a percentage of the profit percentage and not a percentage of the overall equity. And so, for example, if you've got a key right hand, you could say, hey, I want to offer, you've been here 5 years. You've helped me grow this from where we were to where we're at. I see you a key part of the organization moving forward. I would love to, instead of making you an equity partner, because typically what happens, and I know this from experience with Jay, taking over percentage of ownership of the Lawton office and then being partners with Jay and Mike in the Dallas office, I got a tax bill.
Yeah.
And what most entrepreneurs, CEOs, head of company, they think they're given equity, and most employees think they want equity. Actually, they just want a percentage of the percentage of profit, because if not, most of the time it's just a tax bill. And you can speak to this probably better than anybody. So what is your take in allocating, some of that? Do you do that? Is that something that, wow, I might be open to that for my key people?
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm supposed to say this on an EXP forum, but Dave Ramsey, I'm a true principal follower of Dave Ramsey, and I used to be a ELP until Dave and EXP just didn't play nice together. So, but to that extent, Dave had a great profit share or profit calculator. So basically allowing for profit to go out to teams. So yeah, we do operate in that function because I feel like most people are not entrepreneurial based, and they don't necessarily want to be an owner in a company. I use my stepfather as an example. He is an owner or a part owner in a piece of his company, and he doesn't think in entrepreneurial base. He thinks, how do I build the best crop, right? That's his focus. His focus has nothing to do with how do I add more crop to make more money, right? He doesn't need to be an owner. He could just get a larger income from the product that comes from the partner that he has that is entrepreneurial, because guess what, that would be that's what his driving force is. And I think sometimes people, we miss this, and you're right, offering ownership to make them feel like they're more appreciated. Eric Hatch is a good friend, and Eric says something very, very resonant with me now. Oftentimes we say no to people when they ask for things. How about say yes and then figure out how and figure out when? Right? Say yes to everything, because everything has an opportunity if you find it. It's finding the happy in the crappy. Things happen all the time, but maybe there's something really good that could be in that you are missing because you're not paying attention to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what's great about the profit first model, and you have a set profit margin, then the organization knows, right? Hey, this year we're committed to 17% profit. 17 cents of every dollar will drop to the bottom line into a separate account. And, now we have, the other 83% to operate for marketing, for salaries, and for expenses to grow our organization to hit our targets this year. And out of that, percentage, we will offer percentages to this, however we want to structure it. So it gives you a sense of certainty, and it gives your key people a sense of certainty, because I've been a part of things where there's profit and then they're like, man, there ain't no profit. It's like, well, because we haven't set a target to where we're always dropping dollars in there. Because what's funny is that if you do that and you have 83 cents to put the best team on the field, you're going to figure out a way to put 83, to put the best team on the field with 83 cents.
Exactly. You will be amazed how often when you only have X to work with, that you will make X work.
Yeah.
And to use that, this is the problem. Profit sharing is a very dangerous mindset, especially in our environment, right? So we have a company that I don't know if I'm allowed to speak of that uses
You
a
are
profit
absolutely
share.
free to
Okay.
say whatever you want to
All right.
say.
All right. So KW offers profit share, but the downside is
Mhm.
when their CEO takes 90 people out to lunch to try and recruit one person, guess what? That profit goes away.
Yeah.
Whereas we have revenue share where it's direct one to one, right? You get this. Um, that defines the fact of what happens sometimes with profit is that profit sometimes can be diluted by the people that aren't paying attention to the fact that people are receiving profit share. So it has to be conscious. If it's conscious to the person that's sharing that profit, then it's absolutely a great method. If you're not going to be conscious of it, if you're not going to be paying attention to the fact that if I just spend $65,000 on this or that or everything else, or I buy a moving truck or whatever it might be, and you don't understand that that's going to has to add value, a good ROI on it, then you've lost your touch with what you're trying to accomplish with profit share.
So true, man. It's always easy to connect the dots looking back. And I just was like, man, I wish we would have understood this principle, this concept, 15 years ago to, what we could have really,
Yeah.
done a better job at, especially done a better job at leading within the industry. And really, kind of setting a foundation to best way to take care of your people instead of like what you just said. Yeah, let's take 90 people to lunch so we can, scrap the bottom line.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, if you have it set up and just almost automate it to where every dollar dumps in, whatever percentage that you're committed to for that cycle gets dumped into a separate account that you don't even see in your operating account to operate, I think is huge.
Yeah, no, it's massive, and it just adds for the benefit of the fact that I don't lose team members, I don't lose opportunities because I take care of the fact that I'm paying attention to I'm paying attention to the thing at the end of the road, right, rather
Yeah.
than the path by which I'm taking.
Yeah, I love that. Let's kind of shift off of the, you and I can sit here
Yeah,
and probably
yeah,
geek out for a couple hours talking about the
yeah.
numbers, but let's shift over to kind of something that's kind of hard to put your hands around on the culture side of building an organization. And I think it's and you can add to this and your thoughts for sure. It's easy to build a culture when it's just you and a handful of people. But as you
Absolutely.
get up into the double digits, and especially when you get more than 5, 6, 7, the game changes. We
Yeah.
move away from from checkers into chess. The board stays the same, but it's a completely different game. So how do you look at what is culture to you, and how do you look at maintaining it, and how important it is to what you guys are trying to accomplish within
Yeah.
the organization that you have built?
So I'll factor that with a couple items. One is humble implementation, right? You have to be willing to be humble on a lot of things that you do. Listen, we run pretty big businesses that are pretty profitable, that have great opportunities. But if you do it humbly, I think that there's an opportunity there. And honestly, the fact that I do it humbly sometimes comes back to haunt me because people think that I'm a arrogant, pompous ass because I don't go out there and gloat about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. But it's obvious what that's happening. So because I'm not parading it, I don't come off in one direction, but it has a ulterior motive. The other side is getting people that are amazing at things that you're not amazing at to put around you, right? I am a introvert in a lot of ways. I don't like to go out and, I'm perfectly satisfied by going home and hanging out with my kids and watching whatever they want to watch on the TV. Like that's my happy place, right? So I don't need to go out and hang out with my team after hours, but I have people that are in strategic positions that do enjoy that. So they're going to go and do that kind of for me and drag me along when it's necessary. The other side of that equation comes down to you have to understand that you're going to make mistakes and you have to admit to them. They're going to make mistakes. They have to admit to them too, but you can't get mad at that, right? We make tuition payments every single day. Some of them are really expensive. Some of them are not. But as long as you understand that you don't do it a second time and they don't do it a second time, as long as we're both on that same page, I think that's the success level that has allowed me to grow because I gave the opportunity that I'm not going to hold you accountable. And the other part is holding people into the roles that they fit best at and allowing for them to adapt to new roles if that's necessary. It's that yes, always say yes, right? We have been jaded by the fact that a team member comes to you and asks for more commission. Say yes. When? How? What are you going to do? What am I going to do to help you get there? But oftentimes we just say no because that's not the way our model works. And I've done that. I've done that as recent as a couple months ago, and I probably regret it today. But now I need to realize, how can I not do that any longer to be successful?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that whole being rigid to a model that, you know, as our people grows, as we grow, you know, and not being flexible enough to adapt. And our take is always, you know, the model has to be flexible to the pursuit of the vision, whatever the big picture vision that you have for your organization, you know, in pursuit of that, you know, that purpose in alignment to that big, hairy, audacious goal. And the model has to be flexible. I just see you will lose team members faster. And we've all done it. You've experienced it. If we're so rigid to the model, and you know, does it move, or does it provide flexibility as your people grow? Right. We're like, we're trying to make our people the best versions of themselves.
But sometimes they don't want to be.
Exactly. Right. We're helping them get to wherever they want to go. But I believe our model has to be in alignment, flexible as they grow, because what's the number one flaw in the team model? The old concept team model was that they had this
It's all what I do. Yeah.
It's all what you do. And that put a perceived lid on their opportunity.
Yeah.
They're like, well, there's no more opportunity for me here. I need to go look somewhere else.
100%. And that's what ends up happening all too often. I think we get deluded in the fact that as a rainmaker, as a team lead, as these opportunities, that we know best. And sometimes I don't know best, and I need to be willing to admit that, and sometimes eat a little crow to make sure that they understand that as well.
Yeah, 100%. And so for you, when you look at that, so it sounds, you know, having a model kind of elastic to the opportunities, to where your people, you know, what they're willing to put in, right, in return for what you're willing to give within the value proposition. And so, you know, how do you maintain that cohesiveness, that culture, you know, as you're growing? You know, how do you kind of fight and continue to protect that?
As you can tell, I'm in an open air office. My entire intention is the fact that I don't put myself on a pedestal. I'm not sitting in a grandiose office. I operate, I prospect. I still go on a periodic appointment to show that I'm invested in growth as well. I'm invested in showing you what is going to work and what is not. Oftentimes, because, you know, we do advertising, right? So my name's on the billboard, my name's on the TV, my name's on the radio. But I need them to understand that while that is a marketing tool, that is a leverage tool, that has nothing to do with my ego over yours. I've learned many a time, and I continue to learn this, that a brand new agent has a perspective that I will never have again, right? And if I listen to that perspective, it will bind that glue of the fact that they know that they can come to me and bring. You know, I heard this. So the 5 dysfunctions of a team, right? What's the difference between a meeting and a movie, right? The drama. Sometimes you got to have drama to make it fun, right? To make it entertaining, to make people want to engage in it. So I don't mind some drama. I just want it to be scripted drama, right?
Healthy, productive drama, right?
Yeah.
For sure. So when you look at protecting that culture, especially as you're continuing to grow, I don't see you slowing down on the growth side of things at all. How do you evaluate and protect that culture as you're introducing new people into your ecosystem?
Yeah, so we've adopted a different type of modeling. So we've adopted more of a residency program as of late. So showing partner, listing partner. So now somebody doesn't enter into our ecosystem without having some tried true nature of figuring that out. Slow to hire, you know, putting in a true process of hiring, letting them go through a few formats, a few interviews, a few conversations, because that allows us to scale at the right pace. And yeah, it might not be as fast as I want it, but I'm going to maintain and have an organic growth in my ecosystem, right? If I don't have a good ecosystem, things will start to die. It's like, you watch these channels on National Geographic, and one little parasite into an ecosystem can destroy
Mm,
everything.
yeah.
Or one removal of that as well can remove. They talked about Yellowstone taking out the wolf out of the of Yellowstone, literally destroyed the ecosystem when they thought it was actually going to help it. And it's because every piece has a part to play. We just need to find that part, and make sure that we don't eliminate that opportunity.
What would you say to somebody that is like, man, how do I find those parts? How do I, I've been struggling with this. What are like a couple like, hey man, you need to look here first.
Yeah, yeah. Take your ego, set it aside, sit down in front of somebody, and ask them questions. You're not going to always get the response that you want, especially when done in an environment where it's a lot of people. A lot of people ask for feedback in team meetings. I do this as well. People won't respond in team meetings, but listening and hearing when they talk to other people, when they're having conversations with other things. And sometimes we disregard something as, oh, that's not that big of a deal. Well, it might not be today, but it could be down the line. So just be willing to hear what they want, because listen, you will be amazed at what some people can get frustrated at. It's kind of like the divorce thing, right? They talked about like X amount of divorces are stimulated by somebody not taking out the trash, right? Now that's not what got them divorced, but that's what started the argument that got to this, that got to that built up over time. So always remember that, don't let taking out the trash destroy a relationship.
Yeah, no, it's Coach Burt, who we work with, and I don't know if you've been, diving in with any of his content, any of
Yeah,
his stuff,
yeah,
but
yeah.
he has a belief, kind of, I don't know if it's a value or what it is, but one of his beliefs in his organization is he believes everybody takes out the trash,
Yeah.
and so it's just that type of mentality, and what I hear him say is exactly what you just said, is that I'm no better than you. I'm sitting here on the floor making calls, going out on appointments. I am not better than you. And it's like,
In
I'll take
fact,
out the
a lot of
trash
times
just
I'm
like
less
everybody
than
else
you.
should.
Like, you might be way better than I am.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love hearing that. I love that take. I was pulling up, going back through Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. This is probably the third or fourth time I've listened to it. And I've heard this year alone, just a couple things. I think they both came from Ryan Holiday saying, no person reads the same book twice. And so what he's saying is that, we're different humans every time that we go through, and we pick up different things that kind of resonate with us. And I was listening back to the accountability mirror, that Goggins was talking about, and they were talking about bullies and stuff kind of in that chapter. And right at the end, Goggins said something that I haven't heard. I heard it, but I didn't really hear it. And he said, sometimes bullies are telling you the truth in a very mean way. And when you had said you solicit feedback in a team environment, and it's always crickets, but you get more when you're just sitting there, maybe grabbing, you just pop in for lunch, you just nonchalant, um, you go out, you have dinner, you have cocktails or something, and somebody gets a little more free, and
Yeah.
really listen to what they're saying. And I think sometimes that, like you said, that ego wants to go up and block what they're saying. But what I hear Goggins saying is that there's truth in even bullies. There's some truth. They just don't know how to deliver the message in a way that allows you to receive it in a way that, oh, I got something wrong here. I need to address and improve.
Yeah.
And that's what I heard you. This just kind of made me think through that when you were saying that.
Listen, I have bad days. I have good days. So you talk about reading books multiple times, but as a different person. So I read Hal's book every month. It's a short read, takes me about a couple hours. But Miracle Morning, every single month, I make a point to read that book for two reasons. One, because I need to understand that if I had a bad day, it doesn't matter. I have to I have to mentally prepare myself for a good day, no matter what. Another one that I read probably 2 to 3 times a year is How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? The old history. Like, this is still resonant in today's environment.
Yeah.
And David Goggins, we had a conversation about this just last week, is that, listen, motivation is easy. It's super easy, right? because you can get motivated over anything. People could be listening to this right now and say, hey, I'm motivated. Discipline is hard. Okay. Listen, I don't think I could run a 100-mile race and on a broken foot. I, I don't think I could, right? But I bet I could if I had the mentality and the discipline to work through that. And that's what David has. And that's the concept. Know your field, know your lane, put yourself in it, and just have the discipline to maintain.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, that is to me the difference in somebody that does well or somebody that
Yeah.
does exceptional is discipline, because it's easy for us to sit here and make calls for 2 or 3 days, but
Yeah.
show me that you can make calls for 2 or 3 years every day.
Yeah.
That'll tell me if you're disciplined. And so I'm with you, man. That is one of the most key traits that any of us can develop if we're really serious about building something worth building, is just being disciplined to the activities that drive the results for whatever you're looking for.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people forget that because it's easy to forget. It's easy to, it's the concept of going to the gym. You can go to the gym, go to the gym, go to the gym, but it's a lot easier when you have somebody to hold you accountable to go to the gym, go to the gym, go to the gym. When you have the ability to talk yourself out of it, you get yourself into a place where discipline starts to deteriorate. And find your motivation, find your driving force, yeah. But then you have to find a way to maintain that driving force, because there's going to be bad days in life. I think we all know this. I got some news yesterday that was bad, and can I let it destroy my week? Can I let it destroy my month? Can I let it destroy my conversation that I have with my daughter? Absolutely, I could let it happen. It's my determination, my grit, my tenacity to not let it happen that makes and defines me. I always heard that what things you go through do not define you, but how you react to the things that you go through define you.
100%. Absolutely. I honestly believe that as well. At my core, it is really how you choose to deal with it, because I mean, shit's going to be coming at us all the time. It's just, how do we deal with it? And how do we remember, especially, somebody in your role, and, as a leader of an organization, for not just starting, like you're a staple in the market, and you've been there, right? You're proven, and all eyes are on you. And so that's one of the things from a leadership side of things, is that you have to remember that you're always on stage, and that people are watching. You might not know they're watching, but they are paying attention. They are watching. So it's so important on, when we try to level up, our good buddy Ryan Stewman has, the force of average. And every time you try to take a step forward, you're going to get yanked back. And so how do you deal with that to keep moving forward? And no, it's a great reminder. So Brian, as you guys are continuing to grow, no, I know you've been playing the game at a high level for so long. What are you guys most excited about moving forward?
Yeah, so I mean, not to give a plug, but man, EXP has changed our dynamic. It's allowed us to opportune other avenues. So perspective, right? I never believed in wisdom as a kid, right? What is wisdom? They don't know more just because they've gone through more. What are you talking about? I know everything, right? I think young kids always have that intention. But what you find as you get older is that you do realize that, wow, that is different. For instance, the conversation you just mentioned, children, right? You'd be amazed what your children watch in you, because they start to regurgitate the same things that you told when you were, that's the truth. That is learned through wisdom, through having children. I would have never known that prior. So to that extent, EXP has given us that avenue. Jay called me probably a week or two after he made the move. And I said, no, thank you, Jay, it's going to blow up in your face, and it's not going to work. Hindsight 2020. But to that extent, that was 3 years prior, right? It took me 3 years to open my eyes. So I make mistakes too, and understanding that. But the EXP model has allowed me now to scale in other avenues. It's allowed my team, if they're licensed, to become successful with an opportunity for retirement. It's become an opportunity for me to use my passion, which is to teach, to help people grow, right? And I can do that without asking for money. You know, Jay, when I actually made the move, he said, Brian, it's the same conversation we've been having for 10, 12 years. The only difference is you don't got to pay me no more, right? And that's the conversation, is that now we have a collaborative that grows organically. I was literally 5 minutes before this phone call, I was on a Google Meet for Icon to get my stock back, right? Which is pretty amazing. I mean, I never would have
Super
thought that was
amazing.
functional. But in that same token, I'm sitting talking to great people that are in different areas, doing different things, going through different things. And now I'm in a collaborative where I asked somebody he's going to help me out with an entire training network, right? He's not at the same scale as I am, but he has a system that is amazing. So yeah, as much as it is a plug, listen, once you see it, you can't unsee it, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I want people to kind of see, is the fact that, remember that, yeah, there's some bad recruiting people in that mix, but understand that the opportunity is what you make of it. Because one thing, yesterday I was on an Icon panel in the Icon Theater, and there was 25 people in the room. Okay, that room could have probably held 400. And I asked myself, because I was frustrated, I was like, "There's only 20 people here, right? I'm not cool enough to draw enough people, right?" But what was really interesting is I asked myself, how many times have I joined that theater to listen to other teams grow? So never be afraid to learn something new from people that no, like I said, I just got an entire training network from a guy that does a quarter of my production, but had something that I don't have, right?
Yeah.
So you can learn from everybody. It's that same concept. Don't be hesitant to the fact that you are not the smartest person in the room. Stop thinking that. It doesn't work.
Yeah. I love that. And it goes back to, what you've mentioned a couple of times during the conversation, from an ego perspective, and, just the simplest form. We hear ego, we hear people, they don't really know, what does that mean? And to me, it's the simplest form of ego is just trying to prove you're right.
Yeah.
And it's really about just getting to right. So the example that you just shared for everybody listening in is that you weren't trying to be right about, I got a better training, I don't even need to listen to what you have. And you were open to, hey, there is always a better way. Somebody for sure has a better process. Somebody for sure has a better system. They have something that can easily be better delivered. Let me open, right? Because I know how important that is, because I'm sure that's part of your culture, is being able to provide the tools and the resources for your agents to plug into, if they choose, to
Yeah.
help them improve their capabilities, their skill set, to improve, their outcome.
Yeah, there's no secrets in real estate. Greg Harrelson, I don't know if you've ever heard Greg talk, but Greg Harrelson made a comment. He's a big broker out of North
Myrtle Beach.
Carolina, and he made a
Yeah.
Yep, Myrtle Beach. Yep. So Greg said something to me one time. We were sitting in a room. I was Century 21 previous, and we were sitting next to each other. And I asked him, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And he said, listen, Brian, nothing in real estate has ever changed. Okay. The only difference is 30 years ago, I had to hire 4 people to dial 4 lines, and then they would hand the call to me as I got them on the phone. Today, I just get to do that with technology, right? The business is the same thing. It's just how we manipulate and work that business to become more efficient. That's all it
Yeah.
comes down to.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love it. And, for anybody listening in that is definitely in your neck of the woods, that's looking for a great organization, a great culture to plug into to accelerate their career, what are the best way to connect with you, and to be able to reach out?
So the easiest way is obviously social media. Just type in Brian Burds, any social media source. The nice thing about having a unique name is that it's pretty much the only one there. And you can always give me a call, old reliable, 915-256-6989, or just Brian at brianbirds.com. And that's the Irish don't know how to spell, so that's a U instead of an I. So.
I love it. That's awesome. Brother, I appreciate you jumping in, adding a ton of value. And it's really what this Expert Mentor series is all about, really being able to tap into the horsepower of the Honey Badger Nation and, you know, there's so many amazing rock stars like yourself that just have it, you know, come from a place of just adding value and making the difference, not only to themselves, their businesses, their families, their team, but also to the industry as a whole. And I just believe that that's what we're doing with Expert Mentors. That's what we're doing with the Honey Badger Nation. And man, it's just awesome to have you on and really being able to spend a little more time with you and getting caught up.
You know, and I want to leave with one last thing. That conversation of understanding. Think about it this way. I saw Chuck Fazio for the first time, and I heard him talk for about 5 seconds in like he was in this group, and I was sitting over here, and I was like, that guy, right? But then you take time to actually talk to Chuck, right? And it's a whole different dynamic. Everybody's got a story, and the perception oftentimes becomes a reality, and we need to be cautious of that. So just remember that, you know, John is accessible. Jay is the perfect example of this, right? Jay has had a massive success level, and if I text Jay the other day on his on his birthday and said, hey man, I know it's your birthday, but give me a call. He's like, hey, I'll call you right now. It's like, no, Jay, don't call me right now, it's your birthday. Like, enjoy your birthday. But that is that humble implementation, understanding that none of us are too good for somebody else, and sometimes we need to take our initial perceptions and throw them in the trash and realize that there's something better.
So good. So spot on. And what a way to wrap up this fantastic conversation. Can't thank you enough, Brian. And, you know, if you guys want to reach out, please do. Brian's he's an OG in the industry. He's, you know, definitely proven to his model and always staying a student. So take the time, make the connection, and man, can't wait to see you guys on the next episode. Brian, thank you so much, bud.
John, thanks. Appreciate it, man.
See you. Bye.